Okay. Hi everyone. So thanks everyone for joining today's sharing session. Today we are being joined by both external people and internal Lasabian. So there will be about like 100 to 200 people joins us through the live stream and Zoom sessions typically. So greetings everyone, a good day, and also acknowledging already our speaker here, Kumar. Thanks Kumar for taking time for willingly doing this sharing with us. So before we formally introduce our speaker for today, we would like to share some of our sharing session reminders. So you can either join the live stream or the Zoom link as provided in the invites. And we request you to please keep your microphone muted and your camera function turned off during this sharing session. However, you may unmute your microphone during the Q&A portion at the end of the talk. And if you have questions for the speaker, you can also bring that up in the Q&A portion. But alternatively, as the sharing session is ongoing, feel free to type in your questions in the comment boxes. And during the Q&A portion, maybe Kumar and our team can read and answer your questions. And also, we strictly do not allow personal recording of all the sharing session. But do not worry, we as organizers will record the session and we will share it within 5 working days after the session with the consent of Kumar. And we also remind you to please do not post or share any recordings or material shared by Kumar here. And also, Chinese simultaneous translation will be available during the session. So if you want to listen to Chinese, please use the interpretation icon on Zoom, as you can visually see here in the instruction on the screen now. So formally introducing Mr. Lava Kumar, the founder of Entropik. Mr. Lava Kumar is an experienced leader in product management with 18 years of experience in ad tech and Fortune 500 companies. He excels in building and scaling products and has led teams for tech giants such as Motorola and Yahoo. He has headed product for operative and IAS and is currently involved in building a patented product platform at Entropik for the last 7 years. So Mr. Kumar holds an MBA from the College of William and Mary and an engineering degree from Madras University. He focuses on developing AI-powered platforms using deep tech, machine learning, and neural networks. Mr. Kumar is a thought leader and also a regular speaker at the User Research and Customer Experience Forum. So for today, we are talking about user behavior, and it is really crucial in product discovery as it provides valuable insights into how users interact with the product, their needs, preference, pain points, patterns, and trends, which help UX researchers design an intuitive and user-centered experiences that align with user expectations and optimize the overall product experience. So continuous product discovery allows UX researchers to gain a deeper understanding of user needs and behavior. So now, with the unified platform for product discovery, it provides UX researchers with a centralized and organized system to store, access, and analyze research data. So to share some of this, this is just an introduction, but to share the whole topic about this, um, our topic for today is behavioral research and continuous product discovery with unified platforms for repository and analysis. Here is Mr. Lava Kumar. Enjoy the sharing session.
Thank you, Dana. Let me know if you guys can see my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it's showing.
All right, perfect. So, all right. So, my name is Kumar. I'm Love Kumar. I go by Kumar. One of the founders of Entropik, and I also lead the overall product engineering side of things at Entropik. Just a quick brief overview about who we are at Entropik. We are a 7-year-old startup, primarily focused on the user research space by enabling companies to add a layer of behavior and emotion intelligence on every single step of the user research process. So while we go through the slide deck, talk about different aspects that's going to be covered in the slide deck, feel free to ask any questions. I would love to cover as much of those questions as much as possible at the end of the session. So today we're going to talk a little bit more in detail about behavior research and continuous product discovery and how you can actually achieve that with unified research platforms where you're able to bring in moderated, unmoderated, and semi-moderated, and also add the research repository capabilities.
Hi, Kumar. Sorry for interrupting, but I think we are seeing the presenter view. I think we can swap the display.
Let me swap,
Mm.
share screen. How about now?
Yes, it's showing. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So thank you. So the first primary question that everybody has in mind is research bias, right? So depending on who's conducting the interview, who's creating the studies, who's setting up the task that needs to be executed, there's potentially bias that gets involved, even in terms of setting up survey questions just to get some stated responses captured. There's bias that actually gets captured at every single step of the way, whether implicitly just because of how they have thought through the process should look like, or just accidentally because of where the prototypes have been built or the task has been structured. So one of the key things that we follow here, and in something that we kind of preach also, is you need to put yourself in the shoes of your customer and look at all things from your customer's shoes, right? So this is like well said by Harper Lee. You never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, his or her point of view. So it's critical that you're able to see everything through the customer lens, through the customer views. How things typically happen, there are two types of thinking that we call from a marketing or market research standpoint. One is called a system one thinking, the other one is system two. System two is more of like a logical, very slow effort, thought process driven, where people typically capture the stated responses, which could be asking a question and have the response captured in a survey or a document or kind of a thing. And system one responses are typically more of like automated thinking. So our brains are fast, automatic, unconscious, and our emotional response are dynamically changing based on what we are seeing in the screen, what colors are being used in the screen, what text is used in each of your mockups or prototypes or in your websites. So depending on what is there, users tend to automatically form opinions, automatically expect certain things to be there based on historical data that they have seen with other websites, other apps, etc. Most of these thinking typically happens really, really fast and is purely automated in a sense. So we bucket them into system and system two. And why system one, system two, right? Why do we need to do user research? All of the folks here on the call are user research experts. So some of the stuff that you might have already known in terms of why we should care about user research. There's some statistics that's been put on the slide in terms of what is the actual cost of having a bad product development or a bad user experience, or not be able to do research at the right time with the right audience. So some of the high level things that you would see is wasted development time, effort, and cost, significantly high customer support related tickets, queries, which translates to high customer cost from a support standpoint. Avoiding UX research at multiple stages in the product lifecycle typically leads to a direct impact on revenues, has a negative impact on the brand equity, and also revenues is because of low conversions or low engagement. So if you are avoiding UX research, there's significant business impact because of not doing UX research or not doing UX research at the right time, or not doing UX throughout the continuous life cycle. It's also not understanding users, not understanding consumers also fails to achieve the empathy, the journey that when users taken, you need to make sure that the journey is, you're able to resonate with what you have put out on the screen to your consumers, to your audience that's there. So if you're able to achieve empathy in your user journeys that you put out and make that experience as simple, as streamlined, as fun as possible, you're able to get the loyalty impact right away. So empathy is directly correlated to user loyalty, and something that we have seen in multiples of client studies who have actually performed that in our platforms. Not doing research also puts you behind your competitors, right? So you need to know what your competitors are doing. You need to keep on ideating. User research is a space where things really move at a rapid pace, and the industry is evolving. Consumer preferences are evolving. Consumer expectations are pretty much increasing day by day at a really fast pace. Unless and until you're able to see what actually is going on in the industry within your category, or look at other examples or other alternatives out in other categories, you'll not be able to get the best practices implemented in your user experience or in your user research process. So you can see that $1 spent in UX actually gives you anywhere between $2 to $100. And what we have seen is average about $36 to $40 from the data that we have collected so far using our platform. So there's a clear ROI for any effort, any investment that goes into doing user research or measuring user experience. So we talked about why user experience, how user perceive data, and then what is the impact of not doing. And if you have to quantify this with real world examples, kind of there are multiple examples out there that some of like what the examples that I've put on the screen, some of things might you already be aware of it. If not, I think it's some of these things are really interesting in terms of such small, nuanced mistakes had a significantly high impact on revenue. So the first one on the right hand side is a Crate and Barrel checkout. So Crate and Barrel, because of the way checkout experience was actually done, they had a direct 300 million in lost revenue. So basically, when a user adds something to a shopping cart and proceeds to checkout, users were again offered to sign in or sign up, and people got confused and they started raising questions about, am I in a legitimate brand's website or am I in some other fake website? Why? And this also was driving frustration levels with users because I've already signed in, I've added products to my checkout, I should just be able to go buy it, right? So adding additional friction steps just to optimize or whatever the research intention was to capture the data again, basically ended up backfiring, especially in the case of Crate and Barrel. There's a very pretty big detailed case study that was published out in terms of why this happened. And all of this happened in a very short span of time. And Crate and Barrel was able to go back and redo the whole thing, remove some of the friction points. But by the time they were able to put an updated checkout process, removing a re-login or re-sign up or re-sign in, they already lost about $300 million based on users who have actually added products to the cart or the products that users are actually looking at. Based on that, they were able to capture what this estimate potentially looks like. The second example that I want to highlight today is focusing on research, but on bad places or places where you should not actually be making it as simple, as streamlined as possible. When App Store, be it Android App Store or iOS App Store was launched, one of the biggest users of the phone, one smartphone games came out, was kids. And there was not a whole lot of controls in place. So kids ended up accidentally clicking different games that were showing up in these advertisements in app, and they ended up raking up significantly substantial amount of money from their parents' accounts being spent on purchasing different apps as a part of it. So be it Android or be it iOS, all they had was a one-click kind of a checkout, and they automatically deducted from the credit card that was linked to your Apple account or your Play Store account. And this was like a couple of years before, right? So they want to make the process streamlined, but this is a bad place. And the understanding of who the user experience is or who the user persona is, what kind of users might end up using it, and not getting a complete 360-degree view of what all the other use cases where this might actually end up having a bigger impact overall. So simplifying may not always be the right decision, depending on who your user persona is. This is a classic example where Google refunded about $19 million, Apple refunded about 32, Amazon still has a a court case that's still ongoing as of Jan 2021. It's still ongoing when I last checked it a couple of months ago. So far about 50 million in refunds have been distributed back with penalties. And this also raised a significant amount of issues in the European Union in terms of going all the way to the extent of banning the Play Store as a whole, was something that could have negatively impacted overall for Google and for Apple from an ecosystem standpoint. So doing research for right people, understanding right user personas, and what are that we are actually doing the research for is also an important factor when you're actually looking at user experience or user research. One of the other examples is how do you ask question, right? The first thing that we talked about is bias. Bias might come in different forms, fashion, depending on who is creating it, who is creating those tasks, setting up those tasks, who's creating those surveys. Walmart, a couple of years ago, they had one single survey question. It was just asking, would you like Walmart to be less cluttered? The overwhelming response from all the people who participated in the survey was that yes, Walmart should be less cluttered. So what ended up happening was they got this feedback. The feedback was really, really good. That customer's voice was very clearly heard. In order to take an action of it, they started cutting down on the different SKUs that they store in Walmart. So the amount of inventory and the different types of inventory that they store at Walmart was completely reduced. And they directly saw in the following month and a half, a substantial loss in terms of revenue because customers were asking for certain products and that have been dropped from the Walmart checkout system. So asking the right question also plays a big impact. If you ask a wrong question, the negative impact on or direct impact on your revenue potential loss is substantial high. And by the time you're already out of it, you might have lost your customer who came in to buy a particular product which is not available. They are not going to make a decision to not buy the product at all. They're going to make a decision to buy that particular product from elsewhere. So you have a loss in revenue and you also have a loss in your overall brand equity and brand loyalty, which you would have spent years and years to build it up. So it's important to know what type of research, who the user persona is, how to frame questions, how to frame those tasks, how to set up a prototype so that you're able to get to the optimal path throughout the overall journey. So future of user research. So all things are not bleak. Post-COVID, things have been improving substantially. So this is like especially focused towards user research. Market research as a whole is about $150 billion, where there's a larger user research also happens there. So in this particular space, we see about 16.24% cumulative growth rate. So the theme has been, the previous year's theme was uncertainty. The current year's theme in terms of is getting towards clarity, understanding what is going on, getting a better view of how the market landscape has changed, how the changed landscape is going to have a direct impact on all things user research from a market standpoint, usage standpoint, tools, technologies that are available out there. Some of the key takeaways that we saw as a part of the research report that was published by Isomar and also by a couple of other strategic consulting companies across the globe. The industry has expanded substantially and has experienced a year of unprecedented growth, right from 21 to 22 or from 22 to 23 at this point. So even though the projected average growth rate is about 16.24, but we are consistently seeing about 25 to 30% growth year on year. And we expect this growth to accelerate further or maintain at least rather than slowing things down. So the number of $21 billion that you see at end of 2028 is 21 billion projected so far based on 16.24. But based on last 2 years or 3 years of data, if we continue to hit the 25 to 30% ARR, that number will be anywhere close to $30 to $35 billion. One of the key things to call out with growth that happening in the users space is tech-enabled sector, where tech-enabled tools platforms are actually contributing substantially to the growth of user research market as a whole. Customers are looking for integrated solutions rather than siloed standalone solutions or standalone platforms. And also with the generative AI buzz that has created in the market in the last 1 year, things have accelerated that adoption of platforms. Things have accelerated, and the focus is now come back again to user research in terms of how AI can actually be used to make user research a lot more faster, a lot more quicker, a lot more richer with all the data, different types of data that gets collected as a part of your moderated or unmoderated studies. So what are some of the challenges in traditional user research, right? So we have been doing user research for a long, long time now, but some of the key challenges that always comes up in multiple discussions that I have with our potential customers or existing customers is that the quality of data is a question that depends on whether it's an online panel or offline panel. This comes up continuously as a problem that I am not 100% sure about the type of data that gets collected. How can I get more visibility into the data collection process, the type of people who are actually participating in my studies or my interviews? How can I get a lot more rounded information about user people without getting into PII data? The second challenge that we've also seen is bias, which we also saw an example of what the potential revenue impact is. So depending on the questions and the surveys and the tasks that set up, bias plays a substantially important role in terms of making or breaking a research project. The third main item is slower turnaround times. Typically, it used to take weeks, months, if not longer. How can we get research done faster? How can we get the data post-research faster? How can I get my synthesis and analysis of my research data faster so that I'm able to take meaningful actions out of those insights, right? If I'm able to reduce my turnaround time, can I actually apply research across multiple steps in my overall product development lifecycle so that I'm able to put the best experience possible to my consumers? Higher cost as things scale up, as you do more and more niche audiences, or the cost exponentially also increases. With technologies, with AI, this is something that should actually be reducing off late. And also post-COVID, things have moved a lot more online. Remote user testing has been there for quite some time, but remote moderated user testing has also picked up steam pretty aggressively in the market across the globe overall. So that also plays a direct impact in terms of cost getting reduced substantially. And also one of the things that we have consistently seen with all companies of different types, different sizes, different verticals, is that they have an internal research team where they do a research, but they also sometimes work with other systems, other teams outside of their team. It could be through agencies, it could be freelancers. So the ownership of data and not having visibility into what the overall raw data that got collected, how it got collected, and also things getting stored in multiple siloed systems, not being able to get a holistic picture of what actually happened for a particular new payment tab that we want to launch. How was the onboarding flow? How was the payment flow? How was the overall loading to a wallet flow? If I'm somebody who wants to do this project at scale and do it in-house and don't have time and resources, which is where I bring in third-party agencies, resources, freelancers to the picture. But without losing ownership of data, without having to not get into the insights of what kind of data is collected, how it is collected, and keeping all of them in one single place, plays a significantly important role in terms of being able to scale your research, not just for this particular project, but as you get into new projects, you can always go back and look at what happened in the past research that was actually done. So from an Entropik standpoint, we focus on 5 A's. We think these 5 A's are really, really important when it comes to new age research or the next generation research. The first one is that we want to start with accuracy. Being able to get accurate, unbiased insights is of really, really important value, especially when it comes to user research, right? So because of bias seeping in, even consciously or unconsciously, how do we try to remove bias as much as possible? So being able to add more and more of behavior technologies or emotion AI technologies that helps you understand users' emotional responses, users' overall behavior data in terms of what they are seeing, where they are seeing, what they are clicking, how they are clicking, being able to collate what they click versus what they see versus what they emote on gives you a holistic picture of what a consumer is actually going through when they are looking at your prototype or looking at your website or interacting with your app out there, right? So accuracy, like being able to not just measure emotion, but being able to measure emotions of consumers or behavior of consumers at a really, really high accuracy makes or breaks a research project as well. You don't want to identify some wrong places in your prototype, which people saw, but the system somehow misclassified as didn't see. So that ends up directly impacting your CTA conversions or your key placement buttons. Agility, being able to do research in hours rather than weeks or months, or in less than a couple of days, 2 to 3 days, gives the research teams and the product team substantial power to be able to inculcate research throughout your product development lifecycle, not just at the end when you release it, just before you release it into your production or call it as a GA release. Doing research at the last fag end of the overall cycle has implications. If you're able to do research a lot more faster, quicker, then that helps you apply user research across your overall development cycle in more smaller chunks. It's not only important to have accurate data, be able to do faster research, but be able to get insights that are actionable is really, really important. Is my colors resonating with my audience based on what I'm trying to communicate? Is the messaging that I put in my website or in my apps, is that something that people are even noticing? Is my key offers that I'm actually putting in my banner, in my shopping apps, are people even noticing that? What is my CTA button visibility? I might place the CTA button in a way that people are not seeing it naturally, which ends up impacting conversions from a sign-up standpoint. Or people are able to notice it really, really quick, that I'm able to get the time to discovery as quickly as possible so that people are able to just open the page, notice the key CTA button that they're supposed to notice on, and then get to the next step in the process from a cycle standpoint as quickly as possible. So being able to optimize based on those actionable data is super important. And then analytics and automation plays a larger role, and these two also contribute in a way to agility and actionability. So being able to do both your moderated and your unmoderated research in one single place, which also includes semi-moderated, where you have task-based research. If you're asking users to do a particular task on a prototype, a live website, or an app, being able to have a holistic view of unmoderated, moderated, and semi-moderated in one single place. And if you have any other secondary research data that's also available, being able to view all of them together also helps you get insights that are a lot more actionable, not just based on your primary research data, but also based on your secondary research data, which could be industry reports, industry best practices, or could be what your support tickets are actually talking about from customers who are raising these support tickets in terms of what is working, what is not working, or it could be, let's say, Amazon App Store reviews or Android App Store reviews. So there are multiple places in which users actually get feedback. How are you able to collate all your feedback across multiple channels, multiple siloed systems that are separately sitting out there, being able to pull all of them in a unified platform or in a unified manner, and be able to collate and look at both primary and secondary research together plays a substantial role in being able to get actionable insights that has a direct impact on your ROI. So with generative AI, with AI as a buzzword that we've been talking about the last 5-6 years, things have matured substantially what it was 6 or 7 years ago, which is where things are now. AI is not a buzzword anymore. AI has actually been embedded into every single step across the company's life cycle, not just user research, but into development side of things, in marketing, in sales. So wherever we go, AI applications are exponentially increasing day by day. And with the application of generative AI, things have also doubled down more and more, right? So I've called out some of the places where AI can actually help you in user research. It could be moderated, unmoderated, or semi-moderated. Some of the examples are being able to capture user behavior, user emotions, user's thought process at scale, without having a need for hardware, without having a need to ask them specific questions of, hey, do you like how much do you like the prototype, or how much do you like the homepage that I've actually developed? asking them to rate on a 1 to 5 or a 1 to 10. Instead of asking those questions, you can automatically measure people's emotion using advancements in AI. You can also understand what people's eye gaze patterns are, what are they seeing, what are they not seeing, how much time does it take for somebody to see a particular message or CTA button or an offer or a price that's actually put out in the website or in your app. So those are places where you're able to apply AI, being able to cleanse, identify themes, get quick summary out of your unmoderated studies or semi-moderated studies. And some of the new interesting stuff that's happening with generative AI, with diffusion models, is being able to get prescriptive recommendations on what potential design alternatives that you could think of in addition to the mockups or prototypes that your team has put together. Think of a scenario where you're able to test a particular journey with a set of audiences, and you have users, mouse click data, mouse scroll data, and also, let's say, potentially eye gaze data. Based on all of these data points, what if the system is able to give you, hey, look, here's a CTA button placement that is working or not working, here's a score for it, but here are 3 or 4 other design alternative options that you could potentially think about that you might want to try it out, right? So from the research platform itself, being able to push it into Figma or Sketch or InVision, look at these new design alternatives or new CTA placement locations based on what users clicked, what users saw, or even based on a combination of that data plus historical data that you have collated from your Google Analytics or Hotjars of the world or Full Stories of the world. So not just about what happened, what users saying, but also about how can I take what users said? How can I take about what users felt, what users saw into next step of the evolution cycle from a building an automated prototype or a mock-up for your design team to make their changes, make their life a lot more simpler, easier, so that they can focus on more high value work. How to get it done, right? How do you put continuous product discovery as a part of your research process? So typically we show something, we ask for feedback, we specifically tell somebody to do a particular task and ask them to record their session in terms of what they're doing with their voiceover. Sometimes we get involved in the process by asking them, showing them a prototype or showing them a website, asking them a particular set of interviews, by prodding them during multiple steps of it in terms of why they selected option A versus option B as a part of your moderated interviews, right? So show, tell, and involve. These are like different ways in which you're able to get user research data or research conducted today. But at what stages do you conduct also plays a major factor. So rather than doing one of these or a combination of show, tell, and involve at the last stage, which is at the release stage, if you can actually apply one or all of them across every single step of your overall development journey, right from ideation to design, from design to development, development to content, content to release, and release back to ideation, right? So this actually helps you ensure that you put a product which is almost about 10 times better than what you would have actually put if you have just done one research activity at the end of the release cycle. And we also looked at what is the cost of not doing research at the right time with the right persona. So that also substantially makes things a lot more difficult, and the ROI gets instantly realized if you're able to see value put out at every single stage of your development process. So continuous testing and discovery enables your product team, user research teams to bring the voice of the customer across every single stage so that you're able to put a better product out into public domain. Some of the advantages of AI in research, right? So some agility, being able to course correct throughout the research process. If I'm able to get data in real time or in, let's say, a couple of hours, can I change my prototype now? Can I try a different journey? Can I test a journey in the next couple of hours? Being able to ideate, being able to do research at a much faster pace substantially improves your overall output that you want to put in front of your consumers. Can I automate all of these things instead of me spending hours and hours trying to go through videos of interviews that's been done or trying to get transcriptions or translations of different interviews that's been done in multiple languages? Can I get a quick summary out of it? Can I get a quick outline out of it? Can I have AI automatically create important aha moments from the interview without me having to go through and create those? Those are the places where automation plays a bigger role combined with AI to help them get to the data faster, get to insights faster. Some of the AI algorithms that we have been developing internally, and we've also seen having a significantly high ROI, is understanding user behavior and user emotion, be it for your banners that you're putting in your website, be it for your price promotions that you're actually going to do, be it on placements of your CTA button, be it on your placements of messages in your banner. So a lot of things can be analyzed, tested to ensure that you're putting the right banner or you're having the right CTA button in the right location, so that it captures the most quick attention and be able to make sure that people are able to take the decision as quickly as possible. The other last thing which we kind of have not touched upon so far is about collaboration. So with teams being spread across either multiple cities, multiple geos at scale, being able to have all of your research teams, all of your user researchers, product managers, all of them look at that single source of truth in terms of what happened, be able to see how that insight process actually is happening. How do we go from an interview to insights in a more transparent manner actually helps you not just make that user research process a lot more fun, a lot more interesting, but also helps you democratize your user research, democratize your research insights at scale across all of your teams so that you're able to get buy-in across multiple different teams at multiple different stages in a more faster, efficient manner if you have systems that you can leverage to get that collaboration going, get the transparency going as part of a unified platform. So what the next gen research should look like. We already talked about some of them, but there are three key steps that the next gen research should potentially look like. So the first one is, how can we improve actionability of research data? So some of the applications of generative AI, being able to get summary, being able to find hidden patterns, being able to find those key aha moments, being able to conduct research in a more like a conversational manner rather than just showing a question, asking them to type something, or make it a lot more personal, make it a lot more gamified. Those are all different things that you could today do to make the whole research data collation process, collection process, and being able to discover insights from your data collected a lot more interesting, a lot more nuanced. The second piece is being able to conduct research at a much faster pace. So how can you do that instead of you flying or instead of you having people come into a central location or come into your office? Do show and tells if you can do that online. And some of you or most of you are already probably doing it online. But how can you do a 30-minute interview, multiple 30-minute interviews? And how can you take a 30-minute interviews, which is about 2.5 hours? Analyzing that particular 2.5 hours of videos is going to take up another 5 to 10 hours more. If you can reduce the time it takes from 5 to 10 hours, so let's say an hour and maximum at 2 hours, you're saving so much time and you're able to get more additional richer insights. And those insights are not just intuitive insights, but actually insights that are driven based on what consumers actually spoke, what consumers actually emoted, what consumers actually saw when they were going through your prototypes in a live interview or in a semi-moderated sense, or even in unmoderated when you're testing your prototypes in a more defined journeys or in exploratory kind of research, right? So being able to accelerate your research project by reducing the time it takes to conduct those research is something that's going to be of key importance. So this also plays directly to how you can actually have continuous product discovery, continuous research as a method, as a methodology inculcated into your overall research process. So while new research, any new studies that you do, you're able to apply these two principles. What about all the historical research that you've actually done, right? So you as an organization, your team might have done multiples of studies in the past. There could be some important learnings that could have actually happened that could be sitting in some PPT files or PDF files, sitting somewhere in a SharePoint or a Google Drive or in a Dropbox or a box kind of location, which is not connected with the research that you typically do on a day in, day out. So having siloed systems also breaks down the process, and not being able to have a more unified view, understand research a lot more holistically, looking at what happened in the past, applying that past knowledge to current projects so that you're able to get better outcomes. So that's where being able to have a single system of record or more of a research repository, being able to leverage your past research, aggregate data from your historical studies, aggregate data from your new studies, look at what trends are actually happening, where people are potentially dropping off and why they were dropping off before and why they are dropping off now, because you would have gone through multiple iterations of your prototypes or mockups based on the research that you do. Be able to extract more metadata around the research that you've done in the past, be able to collate them so that you're able to get research discovered faster within your organization. So being able to leverage past research for better, newer insights or more better scalable new insights that you want to get from new studies also plays a major role in terms of defining what the new generation or next generation research should look like. How can you achieve next generation research? Right? There are 3 steps. Probably we've oversimplified these into 3 steps as you try to fit into a slide deck, but you can further break these into smaller chunks depending on how your teams are structured, how your business actually conducts, what your product development lifecycle is, right? The first one is always validate the idea, be it when you're working on a new feature, be it in your prototypes or mockups, or if you already have an existing feature that's out there live in your websites, on your apps, see what users are doing, not just understand what users are clicking or just get a session recording, automated session recording, but look at what people really see rather than what people actually click. There's substantial research that's been done that proves that what people click is significantly different from what people actually see. As a user, I'll notice different elements, but whenever I want to make a decision in terms of either moving forward or to skip, that's when I'm going to use my mouse or touch to take the particular action to skip. So that doesn't necessarily equal to what I saw in the screen, right? So being able to use new AI technologies like eye tracking, either automated or with real user eye tracking, be able to capture what users' attention levels are when they're going through a particular journey. These data points actually help you look at not just from an overall prototype or one-page kind of a format, but also from an overall journey standpoint. If I want users to come to my website, for example, I want to have users find iPhone 14 Pro Max and add them to a cart as a part of one of the tasks that I want to do. How do people actually navigate from A to B, which is from sign in to the time they are able to add iPhone 14 Pro Max to checkout? There could be multiple journeys that users might take. There could be multiple elements that people might actually be noticing in these multiple journeys. How can I get an aggregate view of what people actually saw, what people actually clicked, what are the different journeys that users actually took, without me actually having to sit through and also swift through hours and hours of recordings and manually convert that into Excel data without having a visual view of what actually happened. Be able to understand whether people were happier overall, where people are frustrated when they're not able to find something they were looking for, or the add to cart was actually not optimally working, and that was also driving higher stress levels or frustration levels, which could have a direct impact on your conversions or on your top line, which is revenue. So validate the idea. The idea could be something that's already out there, built out. Check those hypotheses. Or if it's a new feature that you're doing, also check those hypotheses in your prototype stages. The second piece is being able to drive the narrative, right? It's not just validating the idea, but be able to drive the narrative of best ideas, best customer-centric ideas actually gets discovered through user research. So the only way that you can actually do that is by empowering your UX and CX teams to do more research, understand your consumers at a lot more detail level. That could be through multiple modes or multiple types of research activities that are available today, starting from diaries to online focus group discussions to traditional interviews, traditional unmoderated studies, traditional task-based studies that you could actually do either using remote platforms or also have somebody come into your office, even if that means expensive, but not doing research is not an option anymore in the space that we live in, the world that we are living in. So being able to apply the narrative of capturing users' voice across multiple stages is really, really important, right? From concept validation to prototype development to prototype testing to design sign-off that gets done by your design teams to development sign-off, product sign-off, product UAT, user UAT, being able to check at goal completions, look at the overall journey mapping. So across every single step of your user journey that happens, it's important to understand and enable your UX team, CX team, product teams to bring in that voice of customer directly across these different stages in the overall process. The third step that we again try to oversimplify is collaboration and integration, right? Something again we talked about in a couple of slides before. It's really, really important to be able to bring all of your researchers into one single place, be able to collaborate, be able to share insights, share key findings. And the second piece is be able to have all your sources from all different siloed platforms, siloed tools, or even if it's sitting in a SharePoint, being able to have all of them in one single place actually helps you collaborate and also helps you get to insights at a much, much faster pace. So collaboration integration has a direct correlation in terms of the ROI that you can expect from your research platforms. So some of the behavior and emotion AI technologies that are available in the market today. So there are three core technologies that we at Entropik specialize in terms of being able to measure users' behavior and users' emotion. So we use facial coding, which is purely based on your webcam that's in your laptop or mobile phones. We're able to analyze people's emotions when they're browsing through a website, when they're browsing through an app. Are they frustrated as a part of filling up a form? Are they frustrated when they're looking at a checkout process? So you're able to get very nuanced, second by second, detailed emotions that you can use to make meaningful decisions. The second technology is eye tracking, again, without any external hardware involved, using a standard camera on your mobile phones and your laptops. We can exactly tell you what people are actually noticing in your prototype, on your websites, on your games, on your apps. How much time it took for somebody to notice a particular CTA button or a message or a banner. Then if they're noticed is something, what percentage of people who actually participate in the study noticed it. So you're able to get slice and dice the data to a much, much granular level. So you're able to use that data point to drive insights in terms of making your markups better, your products better, your website experience better, or your journey better from a user standpoint themselves based on what they saw, how long it took for them to see something, how long, once they notice something, how long they spend looking at it, right? So you're able to get all of these insights, metrics calculated out of the box if you're able to capture users' real IES patterns. The third emotion AI technology that we also use is voice AI. When you do semi-moderated or task-based studies where you give a users a set of tasks, you ask people to speak out loud when they're conducting, when they're doing that particular task. Being able to look at their faces, being able to look at the screen is definitely of value. But be also able to understand the tone, the frequency, the pitch in which they were actually delivering what they were delivering, and be able to get that emotion, engagement, insights purely based on the voice, the tone of the voice, plays a major factor. In addition to these three technologies, you can also always apply text sentiment, NLP related stuff on top of this to get a holistic view where you not only know what people are emoting, where people are seeing, how somebody said something, but also based on what are the words that they actually use to say something. Are those words actually having a positive or negative connotation? So you get a overall 360-degree view of a consumer from a behavior and from an emotion standpoint. On the right-hand side, you see a couple of metrics that you are able to typically get when you apply any one of these or combination of these technologies at scale. So given that we are almost about 9 minutes left in the, so we have a couple of case studies that we want to talk about. I'll quickly kind of glance through it so that we have some time available to take up some questions. So we work with one of the largest mobile banking companies in Indonesia, where they were seeing people not able to sign up when they send out links. If they already existing customers, finding it extremely difficult to sign up on their app. Overall, the experience process was difficult, even though the fingerprinting technology and the facial detection technology that's used for authentication are all there. People, even with all of those technologies embedded into the app, people found it extremely difficult. So what we did there is to help them test the current app as it stands today with their lookalike audiences or with the existing customers that they have, and also benchmark their app against the industry competitors out there. What are the other people within their particular industry doing in terms of what is working? We asked them to tell them the best out in the market based on what they think. And then we also picked up a few other examples of what are some of the best practices that could be done both from within a particular industry or across industries. So we were able to apply facial coding, eye tracking, combination of technologies together to directly have a 17% lift in conversions. When I say conversion, this is people coming, installing my app, coming to the app and clicking on sign up button, literally signing up. So that's the ideal first flow that we wanted to help them optimize on, and post a bunch of research that was done post optimizing the page layout designs based on facial coding, eye tracking data. We are able to see a direct 17% lift in sign up conversions. We are able to also, because of the CTA placement that was done incorrectly before, and based on the research that we did, we are able to now look at other ways in which you could actually have the sign up CTA button actually shown in the screen. Even though your screen real estate is small, you still have options that are available for you. So that basically increased the discoverability of the sign up CTA button by substantially in milliseconds, right? So if somebody comes into the app, the first thing that they were able to notice is sign up button. Once we tested the existing app, once we recommended the changes, and once they implement those changes in the prototype, we're able to see what was actually happening in the past, and we're able to take that and apply that particular data that we collected from the platform into creating a new prototype and test the prototype again to show what was before and what was after, so that they're able to clearly see the lift in ROI. The second one is we have worked with some of the leading e-commerce companies across the globe. One of the companies here in the case study is in India, which is part of a global entity. So with all the video craze, short form video craze, e-commerce company also wanted to get into this space within the e-commerce app itself, so that they're able to create live quizzes, have people actually drive engagement, create stories that they publish it out, and also enable their customers to also create stories of the product they purchased and be able to post that testimonial directly into the app itself, right? So being able to make things as personalized as possible, so that when somebody that I referred logs into the app, buys a new item or looks for a new item, they know that, hey, Kumar bought this and this is what he felt when he was actually using this particular app. So that's going to make me drive more signups. That's going to make me more conversion from a sales standpoint. So we help them again test the existing prototype, the existing design that they had. We recommended a couple of changes, and then we had them implement those new changes, test that prototype again, and we're able to clearly see a 33% uplift in people engaging with the app itself once they've installed it, looked at where things are. The third case study is on OTT, just to give you a different flavor, different varieties of where you could actually apply emotion behavior data, where you could use moderator and moderator research to be able to have a direct impact on your research ROI. So for them, the bigger problem was being able to get the right reach, right people, primarily a OTT platform where they were serving tier 2 and tier 3 markets rather than tier 1 markets. And they were using traditional surveys and traditional in-person interviews, or having them come into a local nearby a town to be able to capture what they thought about the particular app or the experience of this. So based on this was helping them understand what was not working, which was clearly visible and evident, because they were actually bleeding customers left, right, and center. They're not able to convert people, actually install the app to get them to sign up. So there were a lot of multiple friction points that were actually there. So we analyze user behavior data using a combination of technologies, very, very focused towards the target audience at that mind, in terms of for an audience who actually sits in tier 2 or tier 3 cities or rural population, what are the key elements that they actually care about from when they actually first open the app? What is important for them? What is not important for them? And then based on all of this data, they were able to optimize and launch a brand new app. And we were able to see substantial improvements in terms of overall customer satisfaction levels that people actually had, that they're able to find the right content, they're able to find the most relevant content without they having to go through search or without they having to go to interact with the platform. So the team was able to have a higher CSAT score overall, which was not something that they could achieve even doing traditional research, right? So that's where being able to combine lot more new age AI based technologies to capture more intent data, more behavior data, more emotion data, has a direct impact on your ROI, directly has an impact on your signups, has an impact on your engagement, has an impact on your conversion if you're an e-commerce company or anyone who sells online through a website or through an app. Those are some of the examples that I had. I'm going to skip the last one. Why DIY, why self-service platforms, right? So if you want to get to the faster insights, if you want to be able to do things at scale, if you have to collaborate, you need to have self-service platforms or DIY platforms where you're able to bring in your research teams, bring in your product teams, bring in your designers, all into one single system where you're able to unify different types of research that your research needs require and be able to do all of them in one single platform, be able to collate all the data once research is done, be able to bring in your secondary research data in one single place. So being able to do that in a more managed siloed settings doesn't actually work out, doesn't scale out from a research process. That's where it becomes more and more important to have DIY or self-service platforms that actually brings in these capabilities in a more integrated, scalable fashion and drive collaboration, drive democratization of research across your organization, or also even within your potential customer base, right? Your customers doesn't have to be internal customers, it could also be external customers, depending on who you are as an organization, what kind of work that you do. That's pretty much what I have. Thank you so much for this opportunity. If there are any questions, more than happy to take them.
Thanks a lot, Kumar, for very insightful sharing. So if there are any questions, you can type in your questions in the comment boxes as we open the Q&A portion of this session. While we are waiting for some of the comments, if there are any, I'd like to share some of my key takeaways as a UX and UI researcher. So simplified is not always a default decision, but we should understand users' behavior and keep in mind that doing research for the right people with the right people or doing user persona is important. Doing the research for your research or business objectives is important as well. And asking the right questions and setting up right research material such as prototype also plays a big impact. And also leveraging the continuous testing and discovery of products, we can like validate our ideas, see what actually people see, drive a narrative, feed with customer-centric ideas, capturing users' voice from different stages of research as shared by Kumar. Not doing the research is not an option. So it's very important. And lastly, collaborate and integrate drives our ROI, share insights and key findings from across different stages of research. So if you have any insights as well or questions, feel free to raise it up in this Q&A portion. Hope you have some learnings or insights that you have taken from the sharing today. Okay, if we don't have any questions, we have learned a lot, Kumar. So if you have any questions after this session, you can always connect with Kumar on LinkedIn. And you can always ask your questions on LinkedIn as well. So that ends our sharing session today. Thanks a lot, everyone, and have a nice day.
Thank you all.
Okay, bye.